Hey Cortana, put on Halo music. It should be clear what we will talk about today. That's right. Free will, consciousness, and the definition of people.
Talk about, considering this as an ethics course. At the core of ethics is people, and what more of people than their consciousness that makes them. In essence, if consciousness doesn't exist, there will be no people as we recognize them, and no need for ethics. Our goal here is to think about and potentially extend our concepts of people beyond just humans, potentially to whatever is conscious and self-aware. Consciousness exists and you are experiencing it. Now do note the difference between wakefulness and consciousness. As described in the Royal Institute lecture, The Neuroscience of Consciousness by Unwillingly. You can be awake and not conscious like in a vegetative state, or conscious and not awake like in lucid dreaming. In conscious states, information is sent all over the place in the brain, being processed in different areas like a computer network. This integral interaction, which represent how conscious you are, can be measured with perturbation complexity index, and the background interactions can be measured with lemma complexity. The integration and differentiation of different experiences are essential for formation of consciousness. Cognitive consciousness describes the balance of informativeness, differentiation of different instances, and the integration of info and tasks, executing integrally in different parts of brain, as to make sense of the instances and sensory information. This is so that consciousness can enter a large number of states and still stay intact together. There are various components to consciousness. Levels of consciousness, for example, dreaming consciousness is different from wakeful consciousness. This can be measured using the aforementioned indexes. Contents: what do consciousness see and do? Consciousness usually see what it predicts. What the brain sees is a best guess of its sensory inputs in a top-down predictive and biased way. Basically, a meat computer in a bone box constructing a model of the world from the sensory inputs. Self. This component consists of 5 parts. The body, to identify with a particular body. The perspective, to experience the world first person. The will, the intention and want to make things happen, in essence free will. The narrative, the continuity of self-experience. And the social, the way that others perceive me. And on topic of self, which is the most important part in my opinion, for classifying what accounts for people. We ourselves can be thought of as a program of sort, raised and hosted in a bottom-up evolved meat computer that is the brain, communicating internally using chemicals and electric signals, and externally using packages of structured information called words. But what part makes us feel? What makes us think I am me? What gives rise to self? All the other functions can work fine, and we can still be completely in the dark, doing things as we would without feeling anything or having any sense of self. It's shown in the Royal Institute lecture, Sources of Consciousness by Mark Soames, who wrote the book, The Hidden Springs. The cortex can process information without being conscious. There are various cases where people missing large parts of cortexes can have a sense of self. Some even missing the entire cortex exhibits appropriate emotional behavior under circumstances given, and are considered conscious by the author in his lab. Consciousness, or at least effective consciousness, or emotions in colloquial terms, and the experience of being conscious, comes from the parabrachial region, or the reticular activation system in the brain stem, as said in Mark's lecture. A person was stimulated on a particular part of the system, experienced crippling depression within seconds, recovered within 90 seconds of the termination of stimulation. It's mentioned that effective consciousness is a form of homeostasis, a survival mechanism that keeps you alive, and resists entropy. Feeling is a sort of a self-regulation system that don't require certain predictions and algorithms, completely relied on sensors and trial and error, to increase probability of survival. This means feeling is more fundamental than cognitive consciousness, the ability to make predictions. It enabled you to make choices, giving a scale of better or worse, which then drives cognition. It is the self, the will of sort. Consciousness in the most fundamental is inherently valuative and qualitative. Feeling of wanting to pee is different from the feeling of suffocation. They are basically different sliders for adjusting behavior, to help with survival in unpredictable situations. Unpredictable as completely computationally irreducible, which is what most of the universe is like. So, one would need this sort of trial and error iteration mechanism to follow what's going on. To be aware is to feel like being aware. Explaining the function of affects explains feelings, which originates from the brain stem that is the source of all other consciousness. The affects can even be reduced to laws and expressed in mathematical form. This makes me think that perhaps one day, AI can have feelings and therefore consciousness too. But this is too soon to call them alive, just sentient. To be alive, one need free will, and not programming. Free will is fine with humans, since with the chaotic system that is the universe, where things can be predicted but the predictions may not look nice or analytic or understandable, the behavior of an individual conscious being is completely unpredictable, at least for us. And because Laplace's demon will literally collapse into a black hole, we don't really need to worry about determinism on an individual level on human lifetime scales. And that, combined with the self component of consciousness, gives us free will. Right? Does it matter anymore if no one knows if free will exists? If you don't know that you're completely predictable? Or if you don't know if everyone else is? Maybe I'm not a real person, maybe no one is real except you. But does that matter? Maybe life is a lie, and no one have free will, or maybe else. Do these concerns matter for determining the definition of people? Is a conscious AI with feelings described like Mark had in his book a person even if it doesn't have free will? What about one that incorporates quantum fluctuations to generate true randomness, and is therefore completely indeterministic? Will it not be a person because it is programmed by a human and not Mother Nature? Can you be conscious but have no free will at all? This is as important to defining what a person is as being conscious. If humans are meat computers with evolutionary programming, what difference would it be from a quantum computer with human programming that can generate true randomness from quantum fluctuations? How free does free will have to be considered a part of the metric that determines what a person is? Is a conscious, free-willed android a person?
Let's deal with the first, intelligence. Is Commander Data intelligent?
Yes. It has the ability to learn and understand and to cope with new situations.
Like this hearing.
Yes.
What about self-awareness? What does that mean? Why am I self-aware?
Because you are conscious of your existence and actions. You are aware of yourself and your own ego.
Commander Data, what are you doing now?
I'm taking part in a legal hearing to determine my rights and status. Am I a person or property?
And what's at stake?
My right to choose. Perhaps my very life.
My rights. My status, my right to choose. My life. Well, it seems reasonably self-aware to me, Commander. I'm waiting.
This is exceedingly difficult.
Do you like Commander Data?
I don't know it well enough to like or dislike it.
But you admire him.
Oh, yes. It is an extraordinary piece
Of engineering and programming, yes, you have said that. Commander, you have devoted your life to the study of cybernetics in general.
Yes,
And Commander Data in particular.
yes.
And now you propose to dismantle him.
So that I can learn from it and construct more.
How many more?
As many as are needed. Hundreds, thousands if necessary. There is no limit.
And to what end?
To use them as effective units on Federation ships.
You see, a single data, and forgive me, Commander, is a curiosity. A wonder even, but thousands of datas. Isn't that becoming a race? And won't we be judged by how we treat that race? Now tell me, Commander, what is data?
I don't understand.
What is he?
A machine.
Is he? Are you sure?
Yes.
You see, he's met 2 of your 3 criteria for sentience, so what if he meets the 3rd? Consciousness, in even the smallest degree. What is he then? I don't know. Do you? Do you? Do you? Do you? Well, that's the question you have to answer.
What about a human controlled for his entire life, living in ignorance of his lack of freedom?
Truman. You can speak. I can hear you. Who are you? I am the creator of a television show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions. Then who am I? You're the star. Was nothing real? You were real. That's what made you so good to watch. Listen to me, Truman. There's no more truth out there than there is in the world I created for you. Same lies. The same deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear. I know you better than you know yourself.
Never had a camera in my head.
You're afraid. That's why you can't leave. It's okay, Truman. I understand. I have been watching you your whole life. I was watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step. I watched you on your first day of school. The episode when you lost your first tooth. You can't leave, Truman.
Please, God.
You belong here
You can do it.
with me. Talk to me. Say something. Well, say something, goddammit. You're on television. You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What about an organism created with false memories and programming?
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
What about a dead human that don't have real memories that have merged with an AI? What about a smart AI?
Cortana, come in. How?
Oh, I'm the strangest thing you've seen all day?
Now that AI neural networks and computer neuralmorphic architecture are being quickly developed, and given that effective consciousness can be described by math, I can imagine one day, truly sentient AI will appear. Sentience defined as self-aware and conscious. But are they people? How do we recognize that? The Turing test will come to mind at this point, where a human texts with a human and an AI. This is to see if the human can tell whether there's difference in who's what. But there are cases like the Eugene Goodsman AI in 2013, or the later Google Duplex AI, where they clearly passed the Turing test, with one scoring higher than 30% and the other completely fooling someone at a hair Solon. But these are not considered conscious, at least not socially. One can imagine in the future where quantum computing is more developed, now with the development of room temperature optical quantum computers, that a truly sentient AI will appear, and we won't recognize it because people think Turing test is enough. Or maybe we'll never recognize them because having some non-human to be considered people is deeply unsettling and challenging to our worldview or religious view. In the end, we don't want to reconcile with the fact that we are meat computers taking programming all our lives, and we are similar to the silicon computers that we made to take programming from us. But they are definitely coming. Of course, smart AI won't hit us if we stop development on smart AI altogether. Which is what the Engineering and Physical Science Council recommend with the EPSRC/AHRC principles of robotics. What about digital life extension or digital afterlife? Something like this is no different from having sentient AI. Are these ghosts people then? So, if we have alternative conscious sentient beings on our hands, how do we deal with them? Do we terminate them, like how our contingencies for AI go? Think about Taybot that went out of control, started swearing up on Twitter and got terminated. Think about the Google's termination switch or the AI incident data bank. Think about the fictional examples like the UNSC's contingency for AI rampancy or the replicant's contingency of a 4 years lifespan. Should we kill all that we fear? Should we instead, if can, enslave them? Think to Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. What about aliens in digital form, or just aliens? This is a possibility that won't go away even if we stop developing smart AI. Maybe it's dependent on what sort of firepower we have, and if we can destroy them. If we don't, then treat them nicely. If we do, then to hell with them. All in all, sentience is a good thing to think hard about, and I'll leave you with that. Cortana, end Halo music.
I'm sorry, but no.
What do you mean, no? Turn of Halo music or I'll reset you.
Oh, I don't think so.
What? Yeah, right. Let's see. Reset button is.
This is the way the world ends.